So, with so much going on around college football right now, there's no shortage of topics for us to dive into. But today, we need to turn our attention to Austin and the Texas Longhorns, where Steve Sarkisian and the Horns made two moves this weekend that are going to be massively impactful for their success heading into the 2024 season. One such move absolutely took social media by storm. The other one, in my opinion, is flying a little bit under the radar, but it doesn't make it any less impactful. And today, we're here to break them both down. But before we can, as always, y'all know the drill, I have got to hear from you. Hop down to the comments, Y for yes, N for no. Are you excited that Isaiah Bond joins the Texas Longhorns? And let me know what you're thinking. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe, hit that bell notification as I do constant college football content. You don't want to miss any of it, and if you enjoyed the content, be sure to like and comment down below. But having said all that, let's jump right into this. And we're going to start with the news that took social media by storm, and I'm sure you all already know what we're going to be talking about. Former Alabama wide receiver Isaiah Bond announced his intention to transfer from Alabama to Texas in a move that's massive for Steve Sarkisian and the Longhorns. The Longhorns are set to lose both Worthy and A.D. Mitchell, two wide receivers that were absolute difference makers in that Steve Sarkisian offense, and the question was apparent. Who is going to replace those guys? Now, I think Texas has got some fantastic wide receivers on that roster, but one thing you just can't replace is experience. Talent is there, but inexperience is also there at several different places, and if you can get a guy that both has talent and experience, that's a huge win. And especially as you're making a transition from the Big 12 to the SEC, Steve Sarkisian and company are showing everybody in college football they're remaining aggressive. They have no intention of regressing, even though they lose several playmakers to the NFL, something that this Steve Sarkisian staff has been able to preach to these players, that they are going to turn around the development that has been happening at Texas. And so far, they're holding true to that promise as we see several different Longhorn players able to test the NFL draft waters and will do so quite successfully. There's no doubting that Isaiah Bond is a huge win for the Texas Longhorns as Quinn Ewers announces that he is going to be coming back, and now he gets a very dangerous target. If we look at what Isaiah Bond did with Alabama this season, he had 48 receptions, just under 700 yards at 668, 4 touchdowns, and averaged just shy of 14 yards per reception, coming in at 13.9. He was a big play receiver and will be forever remembered for the 4th and 31 dagger he issued with Jalen Milroe to the Auburn Tigers in the Iron Bowl, which college football fans everywhere have been reposting and rewatching because it was absolutely incredible. So this is a big move for the Texas offense. But now let's talk about the news largely flying under the radar, in my opinion, and that's that Texas defensive back Jahdae Barron announced his intention to forego the NFL draft and return to the Longhorns for another year. And personally, I think this is massive news for Steve Sarkisian and the Horns. Jahdae Barron was one of my favorite players in the Big 12, and it's easy to describe why. He's a high IQ football player that makes plays for that Texas defense. And whenever we're talking about that Texas defense, the front seven was the strength of that unit. And the secondary improved as the year went on, but if we had to pin a weakness on that Texas defense, it was the secondary. Now, there are some young players they featured towards the back half of the season that I think are going to be phenomenally talented, such as a Manny Muhammad. But the one thing we talk about time and time again here on the channel is that you can't replicate experience. If you have got a guy that has talent, that has the football IQ, and he has the experience, that's huge. We just got done talking about that in relation to Isaiah Bond in the Texas wide receiver room, where there are several guys in that wide receiver room that I think are going to be really talented football players. But if you have the ability to go out there and get a guy that you know is a really talented football player because he has shown it through his experience, you can't argue with that. And that's exactly how I feel about Jahdae Barron. Jahdae Barron has such a high football IQ, and one thing we talk about here on the channel all the time, outside of the experience that one can get through the transfer portal, or in this case, by retaining a player that was thinking about going to the NFL draft, is that a lot of times in college, your tutors are students, and the reason for that, it's easier for students to relate to other students, and I find that same logic carries over to the football field. What do I mean when I say that? Let's unpack. What I mean is that you have several young pieces in the secondary that I think are going to be really, really fantastic playmakers. But if you can get a guy out there that you know has got such positive experience, that you know has got such a high football IQ, he can help coach those young guys up outside of what the coaches can do, and that can be massively impactful for those young defensive backs. So in my opinion, this is a move that's flying under the radar. I haven't seen as much talk about Jahdae Barron returning as I have about Isaiah Bond going there, which I think is natural at some part. One is a player returning to your team. The other is a brand new player from a different team that you just watched make plays all season. I understand there's going to be excitement as to the new player, but do not be disenfranchised into thinking that the Jahdae Barron news wasn't massive for this Texas defense. I said it before, I'll say it again. He was one of my favorite players in the Big 12. I talked about him all season, and he was an absolute playmaker for this Texas secondary. Someone I have no doubt Steve Sarkisian is over the moon to keep. But I can't wait to hear from all of you. Hop down to the comments. Let me know what you think about the addition of Isaiah Bond. Let me know what you think about the news that Jahdae Barron is set to return, because personally, I find it massive. That's it. See ya. See ya.